All right, join me right now is UFC welterweight Mike Jackson. Mike has been gone for a minute. Now he's back. He's going to go to Fight Island. Thank you, Mike, for the time, man. How you feeling?
Man, thank you for having me, and I'm feeling great. Just you know, well, the best I can. There's a lot going on, but right now, as far as fight wise, I feel amazing, and I think that's what's most important right now.
Yeah, it's been over 2 years since your last fight in the octagon. Tell us about the road back. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people have a misconception of you and your journey back to the octagon. They feel like you were cut. I don't even think that even happened, right? It was just something that was in the media.
Yeah, well, people like to run with headlines, and people don't actually read. I think that's a big issue with just life right now and culture. But nah, I was never cut. For me, it was just right place, right time. You have to do what's best for business, and it was a mix of injuries and just right timing that kind of just led me there. But again, it wasn't like I was on the shelf. A lot of times people are looked at it like they're on the shelf, or they're hurt or whatever like that. This is just my life. Like if I choose to fight, I fight. If I don't, I don't. Like I don't have to fight. So that's just. I just been hanging out, doing my thing, living my best life.
Yeah, I've been following you, man, since that fight, and you've been busy. You've been doing everything. You've been dipping and dabbling and everything else. And what have you been working on most for yourself? I mean, has it been training or has it been other stuff?
Nah, man. But that's the thing is, like, for me, like, I'm always in the gym. I know. I like to sort of tailor my social media to kind of what things that's sort of happening in my life, and things that are on the forefront. But for me, man, I shit, for the past 12 years, almost 13 years, I've been training. Now I'm gonna take some time off, for injuries, or if I have something going on. But I'm always training. Make no mistake about it. And then including now during like the quarantine, the pandemic, and everything going on, I took some. Well, the crazy thing, I was actually getting back into like a full like fight type training. For me, it just over time, if I don't have a fight coming up, then I'm just kind of in the gym, taking classes, working out, getting sparring in, but it's not fight specific. I picked up training and increased different things toward the beginning of the year, around like January, or even toward the end of last year, because I anticipated that I wanted to get a fight in probably like March or May. The new year came about. I said, March is still a little too soon. But for me, I felt May would have been a perfect opportunity. And then the quarantine, the pandemic hit. So I kind of was like a little depression, especially everything going on, as far as like race as well. So I was just chilling out the house, man. I was on the couch, just enjoying life, enjoying life as much as I could. But the crazy thing about it was that life for me in general, it wasn't a big shift. Because for me, the way I sort of live my life, I'm at home for a few days, and then I get to travel for fights and things like that. So really the only thing as far as like work and, just life, I was just doing no traveling, because there were no fights or anything like that to cover. But then, like I said, kind of in a level of depression, but I heard about the Fight Island. I never wanted to go out there, just given the circumstances of what was going on. But I felt that, just get back into shape. So I earlier in the year, probably like January, February, I was out in Cali, and I went to the Gracie University. I checked out what Henry did to like the mats and things like that. And so over like around maybe like April and May, after taking, just like a month or so just to kind of let things process, I just went and built my own mat in the garage. I built my own like troop style gym, had the heavy bag there. So now I have a matted area for sparring. I have some guys that come out. We get some rounds in. If people want to get some rolling in, we have an actual, this is like a Gracie University, style mat. So you get the high quality rolls in as well once you bring the people in. So for me, it was just training, man. I wanted to get back into like fight shape, and then I want to say maybe like September, October, the ball started getting rolled. Was like, yo, you want to fight? Because I had talked to Sean. I run to him at Sean Shelby at different, UFC events. And he kind of like, hey, Mike, yo, what's up, man? You fighting? I was like, yeah, whenever we get something. And then he got something. So now we're here.
Definitely, man. Well, it seems like you've been through so much, man, and this year alone. Because I did hear that you were planning on coming back in the middle of the year. That just never, materialized. And then you just explained to me that you were going to, but then the pandemic hit and you were isolated, and now you actually got a home gym, and now you've been training for the whole year. Well, the whole second half of the year, basically.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it was one of those things where I was, we would have the gym that would be open kind of when things start to kind of open back up. So you want to go train, but you were still kind of unsure. But then, like, people would get, like, you have these people would get positive. Like, my coach tested positive. We had, because I trained at Main Street Boxing, so we have a lot of, a lot of big name boxers come through. Like right now, we have Austin Trout over there training with us. But at the time, we had a woman boxer by the name of Jenny Fuchs, an Olympian and things like that, and she was getting ready for a fight, and then she ended up having like a false positive. Like she tested positive, but then they retested her and we found out it was a false positive. But there were so many like ups and downs as far as like training in the gym goes. It was like, yo, like I don't even want to go to. And then that's the other thing about me is like, if I don't have any motivation, I ain't gonna do shit, And so being that we would have like these positive tests, the gym would close and would reopen, and you just want to be safe. It kind of took some of that wind out of itself for a little bit, but everything now is we haven't had any positive tests. Coach has been fine. Haven't had anything from teammates. People are being more cognizant of this. Realizing that it's a real thing and need to stay the guys at home. If they're getting sick. But the gym right now, I'm in there. Quite a bit. I feel comfortable. Getting the rounds in as far as sparring goes as well. And man, we ready to boogie come January 20th.
Yeah, you mentioned the motivation, and what is the motivation to come back right now? Is it to show more of your skill set? What is the genesis? Not the genesis, but what is the main reason?
Right. Well, for me, see, I'm probably the only guy on the roster that has a different, who's motivated a little bit different than everybody else. I'd probably say everyone else on the roster, for the most part, is motivated by becoming champion. For me, I just love the sport. I've been in this sport for nearly 13 years, and I've dedicated my life to it. Whether I'm inside fighting or if I'm outside covering it, from a photojournalist or media personality, whatever I'm doing, my life revolves around fighting. And it just so happens that I have the opportunity to compete in the UFC on the biggest show. But for me, it's not like I'm just some guy who is just getting this opportunity, right? Like for me, I train with high level guys. If I didn't have the abilities to compete at the level that I'm competing at, and again, like I'm not fighting like top 20 guys. Like I'm fighting, look, I'm cool where I'm at because I'm just fighting because I love to fight. So if it's a guy that's standing across from me that's a solid matchup, then I'm gonna take it, and that's why I feel like this is the second matchup that they've had for me. The first one, it was like in Argentina, on that Argentinian card, I think maybe like a year and a half ago, and that's kind of when the big injuries kind of happened. But even that matchup was a quality matchup, and it would have been a fun fight, just like this is gonna be a fun fight, But for me, being that I just enjoy the sport, I enjoy the competition. This is what it's about for me. It's just about to go out there and have fun, to continue to use my platform for so many things. That's the crazy thing. Like I'm a man of many hats, right? So I can use my platform currently for like the social justice and bringing things to awareness, right? But before that, one of my main goals was to help elevate other fighters. I have access to so many fighters and so many people before they're known, right? The Derek Lewises, Holly Holmes, Sage North. I can go on and on. Adrian Yanez. I I get to see these people like Adrian Yanez, for instance. I've been at all of his fights as an amateur until like he got to the UFC. I was just about probably at all of his fights, and I have, a documented history of that through the photos that I've shot, through the interviews when I've interviewed fighters, to document the process. I have all of this content that many people would never see, right? I didn't have one of Kamaru Usman back in the day and I know he had something coming up. I was gonna put it out kind of like as a flashback, but like I messed his name up. Kind of that was the first time I met him, right? So I messed his name up. The video was kind of out of focus. I was like, yo, I can't put that shit out, right? But I still have this access to this content, and I want to help use my platform to help elevate these guys before the masses hear him, right? So, like I said, Adrian Yanez is just a name that he's doing big right now, and it kind of sticks out of my mind. When people are looking for content for him, when they want to see how he made his journey to the UFC, like I have all of that documented. So for me, another big reason that I do this is just to help elevate these guys to another level, and help them push themselves, push their careers, whatever their journey is or their goal. I want to be there to help them out, and so they can maximize their potential.
Now, with this matchup, Dean Barry, man, like, what do you think about it? What do you think about him? You know what I mean? Like, he's a striker, we know that, but matching up, what do you think?
Man, I feel this is just an amazing matchup. I know. See, the people who like don't know me, who only know me from like the UFC fights, like they don't really know what I'm about, right? So the Gall fight is what it is, crazy fight, right? That happened, got choked out. For the Punk fight, this was, for me at least, it was more of an exhibition. Like this wasn't a fight for me, right? It was a fight, but it wasn't like a fight. And I just went out there. I was out there to prove a point with that, right? And the point was that he wasn't ready for this level of competition. And then, like I said, the dude he called me like a can or something on ESPN. I took offense to it in a matter of like, because we're fighters, you got to back that shit up, right? But for this, being that, like, I'm aware of all the dangers. That's the other thing. Like for me, I being in the sport for so long, I've developed like a high fighter IQ. Because this isn't just about fighting. Like there are so many people who can fight, but there are other variables and intangible things that kind of go into play. And being that I have a crazy high fighter IQ, it just makes sense. Like with this fight, so we have the guy who's a striker, but I've been doing this way longer than he has. There's nothing that Dean Barry can do that would surprise me. It don't matter if it's the diving in 1-2s. It doesn't matter if it's the jump spinning back kicks, all of these, the head kicks. There's nothing he can do that I haven't seen because I've been in the sport for so long. And it's not a knock on him, right? That's just what it is. He's been in the sport for he hasn't been in here that long. I know he has like a kickboxing, like a world champion in kickboxing. But even that style of kickboxing is more karate based. Like it's not like for my kickboxing, I'm training with like Muay Thai fighters and kickboxers like a Cosmo Alexander, or Raymond Daniels. Like these are the kickboxers that I'm training with, right? Or I have trained with, or I'm aware of. I just don't feel that he has the striking skill set that's better than mine. So for me, it's a great matchup, and it's a matchup that's gonna let me display my art. That the people who've seen me compete in boxing and compete in kickboxing, the people who've seen that Mike Jackson compete, they're gonna now get to see that at the UFC level.
Now, as a fighter, is the mindset different for you heading into this fight compared to the Punk fight?
Oh, 100%. So the crazy thing about it, I feel far more comfortable with this fight than the Punk fight, just given that there were so many unknowns, right? There was the unknown, again, and I've said this in other interviews, like because of like my knowledge of fighting and fighter IQ, I was aware of how good he could get in that short period of time, right? So outside of this dude learning like some crazy submission, because that was his ground. He was a ground. That was his background was the grappling. So that's obviously like I'm not really thinking of him learning some crazy striking, right? I'm thinking of him getting better at what he's already good at and to implement that game plan. But being in there, finally was like, oh, he doesn't have that. But with Barry, given like his short time in the sport and what he's able to do, his base is striking, right? And again, what I just said, like there's nothing he can do that I haven't seen. And putting the caveat in this is unless he's learned some crazy striking technique that's just gonna catch me off guard, he just doesn't have the skill set to beat me. That's and not a knock or disrespectful thing. It's just what it is. Like me not having the skill sets to beat Kamaru Usman, right? Or Tyron Woodley or somebody, right? It's not a knock. It's just what it is. And so I just don't see, like I said, outside of him learning some crazy ninja technique that I've never seen, he just don't have the skill set to beat me.
Now with this fight, what do you envision? Like, how do you see your, fight playing out?
Well, I got to knock the dude out now because the motherfucker he put like a $50,000 bounty on my head. He's like, yo, I heard Game don't like him, so I'm going to get him out of here. Give me the 50 grand. I was like, oh, shit, okay. Well, if you put in the 50 grand, and again, I don't take it personal because we fight. But I had already planned on going out because, again, that's just what I do. Like, people, I'm not going to submit anybody. I'm going to knock everybody out, right? But now, I don't know how bad I want to knock him out. Like, ideally, I love body shot knockouts. But just given where I'm at right now in my head and the way I'm training and where I have evolved as a striker, man, it's tough because I want to hit him. I want to just knock him out with the head and leave him face down, right? But then he's not going to remember that. If I knock him out with a headshot, he's not going to remember that. If I knock him out with a body shot, which are my favorites, because it's a painful kind of feeling, and it just hurts. I don't know if you train or anything like that and you've ever been hitting the body with like a liver shot. It sucks. I've probably been hit. I've never been dropped with a liver shot, but I've been hit where I was like, oh shit, I don't want to get hit with that again. I might go with the liver shot though. It may just because he put a 50,000 hit on me, and I'm gonna have to make him remember that shit. So I don't know. But a knockout, that's what we're going for.
Reminiscent of maybe how Jessica Andrade knocked out Caitlin Jukagan. Like was rough.
It was just reminiscent of me and my past fights. I remember my first boxing match. I have a walk-off body shot, and like I hit him, and it is a dope shot. Like I'm almost across the ring. He's like slumped out like on the ropes like that. And then just in practice, man, like people know me. Like if you go with me, you know the body shots is coming. So that's just again, that was a dope body shot. The Chukagian one. But yeah, man, that's just I'm going for what I do.
A question that comes to my mind with that is there a more degrading way of getting knocked out? Is it like the body or the jaw?
Somebody front kicking you in the face. That's the most disrespectful. Because people walk on their feet, and you just got the dude's bottom of your foot on your face. That's the most, to me at least. Like if someone, like even when I'm sparring, people don't really throw it a lot. But actually, I had a dude, and this was my first time ever sparring with him. He was like visiting or something in the gym maybe like 2 weeks ago. This motherfucker threw me he threw like a little front kick in the bottom of his foot, landed on my mouth. It didn't hurt or nothing, but the bottom of his foot landed on my face. And I just took a step back and had to wipe my face. I was like, the foot on my face. And I had to punch that dude so hard. I felt kind of bad. But I was like, why would you think that was cool? Like, I've been seeing you walk on the mats, and then you decide to put your foot on my face. Like, that's kind of disrespectful. So I had to punch him a little bit. He was upset, but you should have put your foot on my face.
Now, with all the boxing talk, with Jake Paul calling out all these MMA fighters. And with your boxing background, I don't see why you wouldn't go over there and maybe dabble in that a little bit.
I think, and one of the things I thought about was like, maybe like I'll be that guy, right? Maybe the guy for people who talk shit, think they can do it, right? I'll be the guy. Like, I'm not like a really big name, but I'm good enough to go in there and watch these dudes. Which, when all this kind of happened, I'm not knocking what they're doing as far as the boxing side of it. I respect that. The part that I don't like and don't respect is the antics, man. Like what they're saying, how they're calling out MMA fight. Like they're calling out these people that they really have no. And I get it. Like y'all are kind of trolling and y'all are doing your thing for social media, but it kind of with the punk thing. Like when you call me a can on ESPN, it's like this is real life, right? You have to back that up. And for like the Paul brothers, they're talented, as far as like these guys are like amateur level boxers. Like they're like amateur boxers at like a pretty good level, right? They've been training probably like 3 or 4 years. So they're pretty good amateur boxers. But when you have these guys who are like calling out Conor McGregor, and it's not even a call out, it's the way. Like I get the call out, makes perfect sense, but it's how you call out the disrespect of like these men. And again, like if this were like Conor and what Conor and Khabib did, right? You have 2 guys, great fighters, great athletes. Whatever happens, happens. Like this isn't that. This is like, again, this is like a dude as an amateur boxer calling out Mike Tyson, talking shit to him. He's like, wait, what? And that's the problem with this. Like if these guys want to stay at even though I didn't condone Nate Robinson going in, that was bad. But if they want to stay doing that, cool. But once you start getting into the realm of like really talking shit to the actual fighters and people who've competed, like that's the problem. So when I was hearing it, I actually got into it with one of the Paul brothers, whoever won fought KSI after the first one. Like we went back and forth on Twitter a little bit. But as far as this, I would love the opportunity to smack both the brothers in the mouth, man. Especially given the way they handle it when they mention some stuff to Dana about calling out UFC fighters. Yo, I'd be that guy. And then we can do some, like, do a Zuffa boxing. And then I can be the guy who goes back and forth because I want to compete in both. So I think that would be a good little look, though. Make some money.
Maybe after you get that win on Fight Island, you have that platform. You know what I mean? You can say what you can say and maybe call out somebody, you know what I mean? Because it seems like he's backing up.
So that was the actual plan anyway. Like that's part of the plan. Is definitely go out here, knock this kid out, and then get on the mic and because again, he needs a response. He talked to she said, hey, Dan, you want to fight them? Fight this, that, and the other. You want to box him? Yo, I'm your guy. Like I'm just doing this shit for shits and giggles. Yeah. So I go out here and smack both the Paul brothers, big one and little one. I don't know, whatever.
All right. Well, January 20th, man, you're back in action on Fight Island. Thank you, Mike, for the time. I really appreciate it. And good luck, and man, all the best to you and your career.
Yeah, I appreciate you. And thank you for having me.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with the words you feel.